Writing isn't just something reserved for students who know how to spell or how to form letters. We want every child to know that they're a writer. And so this video is going to walk you through the phases of drawing and writing development, which is a critical set of knowledge for families and teachers to have about what our youngest writers go through to cultivate their writing skills from literally the first time they pick up a pencil. The first set of phases that we're going to walk through are phases of drawing development, and these are all based on Lowenfeld's research from the 1940s. His first phase, and the one that we share with teachers, is all about scribbling. And that's really the first time that children pick up pencils or crayons. These are the first marks that they make. And a lot of times children move through linear to then more circular to then more scribbles that look like realia. This is a critical stage because it really helps children understand that when they use a writing utensil and they press on a sheet of paper, they make lines, they make symbols, and that these turn into messages to share. So this is a really important stage. Celebrate this anytime you see this from very young children. The second phase is a really exciting one, and that's when children start to draw something that resembles a face with some arms and legs coming out of it. We like to call this the amoeba people stage, and really it does look like floating bodies with arms and legs coming out. And so what this is showing us is that children are starting to pay attention to what people's faces look like, and they're bringing that into their illustrations. So it often is a great representation of them starting to draw people into their drawings. So this is another moment to celebrate of their realizing they want to draw certain people in their illustrations. Phase three is one of my favorites because it looks at the emergence of setting and a little bit more on the characters in terms of actually getting bodies for the first time. So you see in these drawings here that there is a ground setting, which is very important to draw first. And then there's also something in the sky and sometimes even something around the characters. This just helps anchor the picture. We always encourage teachers and families to draw the ground setting first because then it helps anchor where the characters are going to go. Are they going to be standing? Are they going to be going down a slide? Well, in that case, we need to draw the slide next before we draw the people. So you want to start with the ground, but then you also want to draw enough of the setting that children know where to place themselves in the picture, especially if there's action. When it comes to the characters here, we're seeing bodies emerge for the first time and maybe some of the finer features, the start of the finer features, like the start of hands and fingers. Notice there's still some scribbling, and that's great. That's a-okay. We want students to experiment with these phases and grow in their drawing development. And a lot of times that means they bring pieces from the prior phases with them. Now, there really is a big change between phase three and phase four. This is where we start to see some of the finer details come out. So it's not just that the characters have bodies, but they have different sizes of bodies. It's not just that they have hair, but there's different color of hair and there's different hairstyles. Notice that we don't just have scribbles for the flowers. Now we have petals drawn with different colors in them. We even have a very toothy smile. So these are all great signs that there are more details coming into the picture, both in the setting and then also in the characters. We can also very easily tell if it's inside or outside. That's one of the key things about the setting when students are at phase four, and also that it's not always in the same setting. Lastly, phase five is when our children are really understanding the level of detail we want them to put into their drawings. We like to say we want high five drawings where we get 5 details in the setting and 5 details in the drawing, in the characters of the drawing. And what's wonderful about this is that it really means that they've paid attention to what was all around them or what was around the character. And then also, what are some things that I can draw about myself as the character or the characters to really make the characters have a lot of detail. So we notice here in the setting, there's things like being under the water. We've got the fish, we've got clouds, and some birds flying. We also have the sand in both of the pictures. And so really this is a 2-for-1. This child drew 2 pictures to count for hers because she was writing a narrative. So she has a first moment and a second moment. What I love about the two pictures is that you can tell the setting was drawn first before she drew herself. That's why she's able to be in the water in between the waves and the sand, and how she's able to be kneeling on the sand to draw or to build her sandcastle. Excuse me. So that's a great sign that children are drawing their setting first and then putting all those great details into what was around them on the ground, around their body, and up above them. And then as we look at the character, we do have those finer details of fingers, we've got feet, we've got even a wardrobe change here, and even kind of just the general shape of the clothing is not just drawn on a stick figure, which is a really exciting step to see children do. And then her hair and even facial orientation of how she's turning and looking, depending on if she's in the water or if she's on the sand building her castle. Now, this next picture, I just love to show it because it doesn't have a lot of color. And this really helps us remember we're not looking for artistic ability, we're really looking for details. So as you look at this picture, it's things in the setting like the lug nuts on the truck, it's the asphalt turning into the grass of the front yard. It's those finer details that we really want to see students pull into their work. It's not so much tons of color or a tremendous artistic ability. Same thing with the characters. We obviously know who's the UPS guy, and also who's the homeowner. And so those level of details, whether it's the uniform or the cap or the height or the hair, all of those key pieces are the finer details that we want to see in our phase 5. So these last slides here are just showing what the pacing looks like in classrooms over our pre-K through young fives, over our kindergarten, and over first grade. And so each of these grade levels move through some or even all of the phases. And after first grade, we do love to see drawings brought in, but they need to be at that phase 5 level. So encourage your students to bring in lots of great details anytime you are having them draw. As we talked about, we want to draw our setting before we draw our characters to make sure that there can be action. And so that involves us first drawing what's around our feet. Let's get something on the floor or the ground of the picture. Then what are a couple things around our body, especially if it's going to be something that we are going to be on or doing, like going down a slide or sitting at a desk. We need that in the setting. And then what's up above you. And so not in every picture do we need all of these parts, especially if we're kind of zooming in to maybe a hole in a tree where a squirrel's living. We don't need the ground in that case. But this is a really good set of questions to think about generally for drawing the setting. Drawing characters, we want to look at things like size and shape, at coloring, at texture. All of those finer details are wonderful questions for you to ask students to help make sure that they are paying attention to what they need to really bring into their drawing to get those high 5 points. Now, when it comes to drawing a person, there's a lot of steps that are laid out here, but the general big ones are just that we don't want our children to start to draw people by drawing their heads, which is how they typically draw people. They start at the heads and work their way down. And what we want to have them start with is body. Where is the person's body? Are they lying down? Are they jumping? Those are going to require the body to be in different positions. And so by drawing the body first, it helps them now think about what are my legs doing? What are my arms doing? Where's my head? And so the rest of the drawing can happen once the body is positioned correctly on the paper.